Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Amos, and welcome to Dividend Compounders with Cheese. In this video, we're going to talk about the companies that are reporting their earnings this week, and of course, the stocks that are on my radar right now. And then towards the end of the video, we'll talk about why some sectors and industries trade for a premium, while others, quote unquote, trade at a discount. And unless you've been doing No Nut November and avoiding the news, President Donald Trump has been elected to be the next president of the United States. Love him or hate him, a lot of the stock market has reacted very positively to the news. As you can see on your screen right now, since the election, the stock market, the S&P 500, the market is up by 4.7%. The renewables and clean energy space has been getting their buttholes smashed open by a large pineapple, but everything else looks pretty good for now. And I'm not a genie, but I think there's going to be further stock market volatility until the end of the year when the transition takes place. And as you can see on your screen right now, the popular vote was around 74.6 million people in favor of DGT, and then for Kamala Harris it was 70.9 million, 312 electoral votes to 226. This was a landslide victory, and all of the swing states actually flipped in Donald Trump's favor. So before the bell on Monday, November the 11th, we have project management company Monday reporting on Monday. Yes, those slick folks knew exactly what they were doing when they scheduled to post their earnings on a Monday. When I worked at one of the biggest CPG pharmaceutical companies in the world, we used Monday for our project management efforts. And to be honest, there's nothing crazy about this company. I personally use and prefer Asana and think Trello is just as good. So when I think about Monday, I think it's overhyped, and it's only a matter of time before Microsoft builds an integrative team management and project workflow into their Teams app. And Google will probably do something similar as well. I just can't believe that Google does not have a project management workflow. It's kind of weird. And even if Monday crushes its earnings, I think year to date they're up by 82%, and that's because this is a growth company. Their trading multiple is a 400. Yes, the PE ratio is 400. So there's a lot of expectations for this company. So if they miss their earnings, just like how they're up by 82%, I wouldn't be surprised if they drop by 20% in a single trading day. So all that to say, even if Monday crushes its earnings on Monday, I'm not interested in this company. Kind of like how if you go to the gym and you only work out your arms despite having toothpick legs. Some people, I'm telling you, there are some people out here that religiously skip leg day. And if that's you, that's how I feel about Monday. I'm just not very interested in this company. When we look 1 year out, up by 130%, 5 years out, 71%. So the volatility of this company is ridiculous. Do I think Monday should be trading at $300 a share? No. Then there's also Aramark, which is a food services company that provides a full menu, the preparation, the food, and the staff to schools, prisons, and to corporate cafeterias. There's different tiers to their menu, ranging from delicious to disgusting. And the military academy that I went to for my undergrad, they actually utilized Aramark for our mess hall. And one thing is for sure, I would never invest into a food services company because for a simple guy like me, I prefer the business model of restaurants instead. Restaurants just make a lot more sense to me. So other than Monday and Aramark, I'm not really interested in any of these companies. And after the market closes on Monday, I'm also not too particularly interested in any of these companies. The biggest name is probably Grab, what you see right here in green, which is the Singaporean version of Uber. So Grab does food delivery and people delivery using personal vehicles. And when I think about Singapore, that's probably going to be on a moped. Their operations are based in Southeast Asia. So when we think about Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, and my whole thing is if I'm going to invest into a delivery company, I would rather invest into Uber or Lyft because my knowledge and scope of Southeast Asia is not that detailed despite living in Japan. So I would just stick to what I know in my sphere of comfort, which is North America. So Uber, if I were to. And then there's also Luminar, which is an indirect play on the autonomous cars market because they are in the business of LiDAR, which is the technology sensors that are used to determine depth, distance, and perception to assess whether or not that autonomous car wants to make an illegal U-turn and take you away from your destination. And as we move right along to Tuesday, November the 12th, it's a whole list of no-name or small-cap pharmaceutical companies that are reporting. I went ahead and deleted like 100 of them because let's be honest, I'm not interested and neither are you. When it comes to those small-cap pharmaceutical companies, only the gamblers that go all or nothing will have a good or a bad day. For the rest of us, we don't really care, right? Now, I'm serious. Investing into the small cap pharmaceutical company is like pissing your money away. You have better odds with buying a scratch off lottery ticket or taking a piss in the dark with your eyes closed when you wake up at 3 a.m. at night. When you gamble on a small cap pharmaceutical company and the clinical trials that they have to go through and the hoops and the loops, it's a make or break situation, and more often than not, you're going to be losing your money. However, with that said, the ones that are not pharmaceutical companies and that might be relevant for you, we have Spotify, first and foremost, which allows businesses to create an e-commerce platform and to do their business online. During the pandemic, when in-person shopping was limited, this company really thrived, right? And the investment into Shopify made sense for me. However, as of right now, I think this company is overvalued, overhyped, and I'm not interested. But if you see value in it, I don't blame you. And then there's a household name we all ought to know, Home Depot. They're also reporting. And based on subjective preferences, I like Lowe's better than Home Depot. They're both in the business of selling home remodeling, home improvement. You can buy wood, paint, whatever you need for your house, like a new sink, a toilet. That's what they do. All that to say, either one is a good investment choice. I just like Lowe's a little bit better. And I'm not too interested in either one, but I'm just giving my opinion. However, if you are bullish on people doing home renovations, this is probably one of the better plays with a decent dividend. Home Depot is a favorite among dividend investors. Just want to throw that out there. And then below Home Depot, we have C, ticker symbol S. Which is another Singaporean company that is reporting their earnings. We have Grab and we have C. It's basically, how I can describe it is, it's the Amazon of Singapore. They offer online gaming, online shopping, and they even own a football club that is based in Singapore. And outside of North America, believe it or not, soccer is a big ordeal. So to own a football club is kind of cool. And fun fact, C also is in the digital payment processing space. So they are doing a whole bunch of things. It's a conglomerate. So when you think about C, I also think about Amazon. So when it comes to C and Asia, that market, I would rather buy into Coupang than C. Although both companies seem to have a bright future, for me, I just have a little bit more comfort, and my sphere of knowledge is in Japan and in South Korea and Taiwan rather than Southeast Asia, which is where C predominantly operates. And then below C, you have On, ticker symbol on. It's the shoe company that has all the hype right now. It looks like the Nike Shox that used to be very popular in the late 90s or early 2000s. I tried them on at the shoe store and I thought, is this really it? Is this really a shoe that's $200? Because my whole thing is, if you want a comfortable shoe that you can stand in all day or to work out in or for fashion or whatever you do, then you're better off in a pair of New Balance, Asics, Brooks, or even Saucony's. But I will say this, it is slightly more comfortable than a pair of Nikes. And if anyone watching this video thinks Nikes is the answer to the most comfortable shoes on the planet, then you probably enjoy the smell of your own farts, and you're probably a weirdo. Because Nike, although their shoes have that aesthetic and their cool factor going on for them, their toe box is so freaking narrow, to the point where your pinky toe is suffocating. So I don't really mess or like Nike, and besides, now that Trump is elected, and the fact that Nike does almost all of their manufacturing overseas, predominantly in China, Nike is about to suffer. Let's see how the market reacted to Trump winning with Nike stock. Right, like Nike is going through a tough time right now, and I think going forward for the next year, 2, 3, let's be honest, for the next 4 years, Nike is going to struggle unless they bring back their manufacturing and production of shoes and retail to the United States, which is never going to happen. Because I think back in the early 90s, almost all of retail and shoe manufacturing moved overseas to factories that are based in like China, the Philippines, India. So Nike is going to struggle. I think Donald Trump says something like he's going to increase the tax rates for companies that do most of their business production overseas that take away from American jobs. So this is a company, although I see that it's down by 28% with a 21 trading multiple. Not interested. I'm going to keep saying it again and again. And that goes along with like Under Armour, Columbia, any one of these like retail shoe companies. Not interested in. I apologize for going on that tangent, but there's also Hertz, the car rental company, and then below that there's Treehouse Foods, which makes food products for grocery stores and retail partners under a private label. So like, for instance, if you walk into a CVS and there's a CVS branded potato chip on the shelf, it's probably made by Treehouse, not by CVS. CVS will pay them to produce and manufacture those chips just to slap on that CVS logo, if that makes sense. That's what they do. The private food label industry is something that I'm not very bullish on. I see Treehouse brands as a less than desirable alternative to General Mills, Kellogg's, and Hormel and whatnot. It's better to just go with the brand name stuff when it comes to like Treehouse Foods, UNFI, just not into it. However, I would pump the brakes because RFK Jr. is most likely going to join the Trump administration with oversight of health and food. And he's most likely going to go hard after these CPG companies. He's most likely going to wage war on them and make their lives miserable, at least for the next 4 years. Because those companies use highly processed ingredients for their stuff, at least for the US. I know when it comes to like Europe and certain parts of Asia, Kellogg's, General Mills, and whatnot, they're not allowed to use such artificial and processed ingredients. But when it comes to us American folk, they're allowed to do whatever they want in the name of taste and to keep us addicted to their stuff. And that's why if you look into Kellogg's, General Mills, Hormel, or any one of these food CPG companies, they're going through a rough time and a sell-off right now. There is definitely fear in the streets, and the sentiment among Wall Street is bearish among the CPG companies. And then, of course, underneath them, you also have Tyson Foods, which has been going through a rough patch for the past 5 years. Year to date, they are up by 7%, but if we zoom out 5 years, just look at this. It is not a pretty picture, and Tyson Foods is in the business of selling meat in the grocery aisles. So when you think about the 12-pack of chicken wings, pork chops, whatever protein it is, it's most likely Tyson. Tyson works with the farmers and the butchers and the factories to put that food from the animal onto your table. Am I bullish on this company? No, I am not. And then below Tyson, you have AstraZeneca, which is one of the bigger pharmaceutical players that most people watching this video right now don't really know about. However, I used to work for one of their competitors, and I can tell you that AstraZeneca is a decent company. I personally use Allegra, which is an allergy antihistamine medicine made by AstraZeneca. And no, I did not say Viagra, I said Allegra. And besides, I don't need Viagra because I have a micro penis. Thank you very much, and I don't think I really need help in that department. And last but not least, there's EVgo, which operates EV charging stations for electric vehicles. Pretty self-explanatory. And after the market closes on Tuesday, we have Spotify, which is a music streaming and podcast streaming platform. And it's also a company that a very famous Dividend YouTuber likes, but I just don't see and believe in the vision. I personally use Pandora and YouTube for my music needs, and I fail to see an economic moat that Spotify would have. It's just an open field. Music streaming is readily available from all different modalities. I just don't see it. And then there's also Occidental Petroleum. They're reporting, which is a brand that was made famous thanks to Warren Buffett. It's a huge and major player in the oil and gas field. And then the one that I'm most excited and interested about will be Skyworks Solutions, as you can see right here. I know it looks ugly. I did a copy and paste. Whatever. Skyworks Solutions is a 5G and then eventual 6G chips company that's based in the US. Based in the US being the key words. And I'm interested in this company and their progress from their earnings because I am ready with a pile of cash to throw at this company contingent upon how they are doing. And then below Skyworks, we have Gen Korean Barbecue House. It's a lesser known restaurant that's also reporting their earnings after the market closes on Tuesday. So right now, Gen operates Korean barbecue restaurants all over the West Coast in the US. Essentially, you get fresh vegetables and fresh meat to grill right in front of you. You can see what you're eating. So if you're like a health freak, a bodybuilder, or you like protein, Korean barbecue is the right move. If you've ever had Korean barbecue before, then you know that it's always crowded inside and it's a good bang for your buck. You're pretty much going to be paying around $24.99 to about $34.99 to eat as much as you want. Yes, not a single piece of steak, but to eat as much meat, ingredients, soup, dumplings, kimchi, whatever you want for about 2 to 3 hours. Good bang for your buck. Not an ideal place to take someone on your first date, but it is a fantastic place to go to for like a birthday celebration or to have a get together. It's a good time. Now, this company is in their growth phase right now, so they do not pay a dividend, but it is a company that I am keeping on my radar. My only call out and concern is that they do not have an economic moat. There are so many different varieties and chains of Korean barbecue restaurants, and I just don't see them having a way that lures people to come back to them over the competition. And then there's also Rocket, which is a mortgage lending business. And when I think about the mortgage lending space, I prefer UWMC over Rocket. And that's because UWMC has better business operations in my subjective opinion. And then of course there's Instacart, the grocery delivery app. If you invest into Instacart, dude, you're just a silly goose. If I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry. Let's move to the next day, November the 13th. Before the markets open on Wednesday, you have Dole, which is in the vegetable and fruits business. And then of course below them there's WAG, which is a dog walking company where you can pay a stranger like $20 to come walk your dog. Or you can pay like $30 for them to walk your dog like twice or 3 times a day. And between you and me, I'm surprised Chewy or BarkBox has not acquired this company yet. How are they a standalone business? And then when the markets close, we have Cisco. This is a company that everyone should recognize and know. Cisco is an IT company that has their hand in just about everything related to servers, infrastructure, and within the walls of most Fortune 500 companies. Their sales team is doing a good job to make sure their contracts are renewed year after year. And I don't necessarily know if their products are per se the best, but changing your services in the IT department comes with a heavy burden of delaying or downtime in your internet servers. And I think a lot of companies don't want to go through that headache. And so Cisco stays afloat by getting those renewal contracts with the big companies. Now, when I think about a nimble and a small startup, yeah, if they're with Cisco, they could probably switch to another provider. But for the most part, if you're Walmart, Best Buy, Home Depot, you're probably just going to stay with Cisco. Funny enough, I have a ton of cash invested into them, not because I think they are the next Microsoft or Amazon, but because I think they pay a pretty dividend and they run a safe operation for the most part. It's safe and steady. It's pretty reliable. I'm not expecting this company to 10x in the next year or so, but rather a safe and steady about 10% a year plus a 3.5% dividend. What more could you ask for except probably a bigger ding dong if you have a micro penis like I do? And then below Cisco, you have Gladstone Capital, which is a BDC that pays a monthly dividend. Basically, it's like buying into an ETF that has a portfolio of all different kinds of small companies and businesses. Their current dividend yield is 7.8%. Year to date, they're up by 17%. If we zoom out 5 years, they are trading at their historic high Their valuation, I did not do the math yet, so I can't really tell you. You cannot evaluate a BDC by the PE ratio. It's just not accurate. However, the dividend yield is 7.8, and it looks like in the past 5 years, your money would have been up by 24.9%, and that's because they took a huge dip during the pandemic. Oh my goodness, it went from like 21 down to $9 a share, and now they're back up to trading about where they were prior to the pandemic. So I think this company is not exactly where you put your money into if you want it to keep growing, but to get that dividend that pays monthly might not be the worst idea. But with that said, if you want a more detailed explanation of what a BDC is, then watch my video on ARK or Main Street Capital and why I prefer those two over Gladstone Capital. Although this one's not bad at all. Also on Wednesday, we have Canoo, which is in the EV business, except their cars are kind of unique in that they remind me of Legos. Let me pull up their website to show you what I'm talking about. And I say that it reminds me of Legos because the framework and structure that you see right here with the 4 tires and the axles, it's pretty much the same across all their models and their vehicles. However, you can replace and change out the tops depending on your business needs or if you need a different type of vehicle for the purpose that you're trying to use that car for. I guess I can play this demo as I talk about them. Canoo is a company that is quietly earning contracts with some heavy hitters like Walmart, as you can see on your screen right now, the post office, NASA. In the UK, I also think they service like the roadside assistance. So it is a company that is slowly and quietly making money, but I'm not interested in this company because when I think about the EV space, there's so many players, and in the next 10 to 20 years, I truly believe that the winner of the EV space is going to be Tesla. And last but not least, on Wednesday, we also have Owlet, which is a baby monitoring company. Yes, you heard that correctly. They're in the business of making sure that your baby is doing safe, where you can check your phone's mobile app to see how they're doing. And I would say this company's success is contingent upon a growing population. If not, the company's not going to do well. So if you think this type of company would succeed in Japan or South Korea, which are two economic powerhouses that have a declining birth rate, then you are a special type of stupid. But in the US, where our population is growing year over year, I think this company has okay potential. I'm not going to say the best or the worst, but just average prospects from my basic level, surface level understanding. What you see on your screen are their product offerings, and I would say the cool one is probably this one right here, the Dream Sock. The first of its kind, FDA cleared baby monitor. Let me just click it right there. So that special type of sock goes on the baby's foot and it sells for $300. And when they do that, through your mobile app, you can measure their vital signs and heart rate in order to, curb your anxieties about sudden infant death syndrome. If you're one of those parents that's always worried about that, this is one of those socks that you can buy to make sure that your baby is always doing okay. I would say it's pretty cool stuff. And they also have the classic camera for the visuals of the crib, so you know when you gotta go in to change that poopy diaper. But the sock right here is their differentiator because through the sock, they offer you vital signs that a traditional video just can't measure, such as the heart rate, the oxygen levels, the sleep trends. I think it's kind of cool. I wonder if they make one for adults. And then Thursday, before the markets open, we have Disney. Everyone and their fat wife should know what Walt Disney Company is. I have thousands of dollars invested into the Mighty Mouse, and I'll be honest, that was before I was proficient in evaluating companies. And I guess you know where I'm going with this one. I am in the red with Disney, but I have not sold out of it, and that's because I'm not expecting much from them, at least for this year and the next, especially when a ticket to Disney is going to cost you like 500 pubes and a sack of gold. I think this company has lost their creative vision, and they're just regurgitating and spitting out movies and themes that they made in the past, but with a DEI spin to it. This is a company that just lost its authentic approach to making magic. However, I think as we go forward in the next 10 to 20 years, I think they're going to get that back and they're going to start producing original and unique content. Because how much varieties and flavors and different remakes can you do of Star Wars and the Avengers, right? They need to go back to the drawing board, let go of the red tape, and start taking risks and making unique content. Stop remaking Disney princesses and doing DEI features. Like, it's not doing this company a favor. And the fans are also confused. Like, dude, you're literally just remaking the same movie and content again and again. We're not stupid. However, it is a high quality company that sits on a lot of intellectual property, and I think for the next 50 years or so, they're gonna be okay. Actually, more than okay, and that's why I have not sold out of it. Although, when they did cut the dividend, I was really close to selling at a loss, and then I realized, you know what? This is a high quality company. Let's just sit on it and see what happens. They have since reinstated the dividend, and they're slowly making progress and rebounding, but I think of Disney as like a pile of poop with flies all over it, and I'm just poking it with a stick saying, hey, when are you going to move? When are you going to start going up? But I'm not losing sleep over it. They're okay. And not sure if anyone watching this will even care, but also on Thursday, we have Sally's Beauty Supply. This is the place that you go to for wholesale prices on hair dye, shampoos, makeup, and anything they use at a salon for the most part. What I'm trying to say is that if you're feeling dangerous, you can go ahead and buy a blue hair dye kit. Go home, close the doors, tell the wife you're busy, and you can change the color of your pubes for Thanksgiving and surprise her. Like, if you're feeling that, this is the place where you go to buy that hair dye kit. Now, funny story, about 8.5 years ago, I actually dyed my hair purple to do a modeling gig. So Sally is a store that I have knowledge of and been into, and I can say it's an okay retail store. And then what else do we have? When the markets close, we have a whole list of companies reporting their earnings that us as dividend investors, we should not really care too much about. I think maybe Post, which is in the business of like cereal and pet food. But the only one worth calling out that I thought was kind of interesting based on my research is this one right here, Consolidated Water. So Consolidated Water designs, builds, operates, and finances seawater reverse osmosis, also known as SWRO, desalination plants and water distribution systems in several Caribbean countries. No, not in California or Alabama, but like in Jamaica. And you might be interested in bullish after hearing that. But the thing is, the market for this company is in the Caribbean. Their ticker symbol is what? CWCO. Year to date, they're down by negative 28%. Trading multiple is a 9.8. Dividend yield is a 1.7. This is not looking too good. What's 5 years out looking like? Okay. So 5 years out, they're up by 47%. Their headquarters is in the Cayman Islands. Number of employees is 293. So when I think about Consolidated Water Company, I see their efforts and operations as more of a nonprofit kind of endeavor, which is still a good thing, but if you want to invest into water, I think the right move is going to be American Water Works. Let me just pull them up on the screen right here. Year to date, American Water Works is up by 1.9%. 5 years out, they're up by 17%, but I'm still going to stand by what I said. If you want to invest into water, I think the right move is American Water Works or even Eco Labs. Any company that can take dirty water and turn it into drinking water, I think has a future going for them. Personal judgment, I think we should be investing into filtering seawater to make it usable and drinkable, because I lived in California before, and in places like California, every week or so, I would get an email talking about, hey, we as the citizens of California need to put in this effort together to save water. There's a water shortage, but when I look at a picture of a map and I see the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, that's a lot of water that could be filtered and turned into usable water. Are my two brain cells just thinking of the complex issue at a simple perspective? Because we have all this ocean water. Why can't we just turn it into usable water? All that to say, obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of the seawater filtration business, but why isn't this something that California goes balls deep into and building out that infrastructure and utilizing some of that ocean water into the water for our toilets? I don't know. Let's move right along. On Friday, November the 15th, there's no real interesting companies in my opinion. My apologies if you work at one of these companies and your whole personality is your company. I'm sorry, but I don't think any of these are interesting. Yes, including Alibaba. Knowing it's a huge conglomerate based in China. I know, very controversial financial statements. So, based on the companies reporting their earnings this week, there's two companies that I'm going to be buying into depending on their earnings and what happens with their stock price movement. So, that's going to be Skyworks Solutions, the company that makes 5G chips, and then, of course, Cisco. I'll just add to my positions. Disney, I will not. No, not until they get their creative vision back on track. And I actually made an analysis video on Cisco and on Skyworks Solutions if you want to hear my logic. Now, with that said, I wanted to answer a question that one of you left on my video about Dino. HF Sinclair. The user Susie May asked, why do you think this company is selling so far below the valuation models? So before I can answer that, I gotta kind of give my whole speech here, okay? When we look at the PE ratio of the S&P 500, right now it's about a 28. Meaning, when you take into consideration all of the different companies, that's what the going rate is. But when you break it down by sector and industry, the tech companies within the S&P 500 and even outside of it, they're going to be valued at a premium multiple because their growth, expectations, and numbers are a lot bigger than, say, the oil and gas field, which is what HF Sinclair is a part of. The oil and gas field is very mature. Like if we were talking about the 1940s or the 1970s, yes, oil and gas was probably what tech is today, meaning the days of growth for oil and gas are long over, especially in 2024, because right now there's so much effort going on about being environmentally friendly, and efforts are being made to transition from relying on fossil fuels to other sources of energy. Like that's the name of the game. Don't hate the player, I'm just the messenger. However, that doesn't mean that oil and gas is useless, because now that I have done my research on the industry, I personally think for at least the next 40 years, they'll still be okay. Meaning it's not going to be obsolete, but it's also not going to grow. And that's because transitions take a ton of time. If you think that poor working class family in West Virginia is going to be able to afford an EV because you're screaming at them and telling them they need to buy an EV this year is going to happen, you're out of your mind. It's going to take time for the whole population to get on board with the whole picture of moving away from fossil fuels. So, if a company trades with a high PE ratio, that just means that the market expects a lot from them, at least in the next 3 to 5 years. The expectations are very high. However, on the other hand, if the PE ratio is low, it doesn't necessarily mean the company is undervalued, but that Wall Street and the growth expectations of that company are going to be low. Up until recently, the financial sector, aka the banks, they were trading at a very low PE ratio for almost every single company. When I think about Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, US Bancorp, and that's because after the whole 2008 Great Recession and debacle with the mortgage thing happening, after that, there's been a lot of regulations and restrictions placed on banks to prevent that type of carelessness from happening again. And I think that's warranted. I think that's the right thing to do. So even a high quality company like JP Morgan Chase, for the better part of this year and last year and for the past 5 years, their trading multiple was probably around a single digit number to 11, 12, and even right now, they're at a 5-year high. Their PE ratio is at 13. However, like I alluded to in the beginning of the video, now that Trump has been elected, he has a whole agenda and a game plan to bring banks back up and to make America great again, right? Like that's his whole slogan. The banks, as a result, have shot up in valuation because Wall Street understands the assignment. And the assignment is that Trump is most likely going to reduce and eliminate the red tape holding the financial sector down. Envision that they're running a 5K run the day after Thanksgiving. If you're that type of person, God bless your heart. But imagine they're running that 5K and they're running with a 20-pound block of cement tied to their left foot. Right, like that's what they're doing. But what is in theory going to happen is that Trump is going to grab a pair of scissors and cut that rope so that JP Morgan Chase can now run freely. And when that happens, this company is about to make hands over fist profits and their margins are going to look silly. And that's why people are piling their money into the financial sector. All that to say, oil and gas are not the only companies where a majority of them trade at a lower PE ratio. ratio. When we look at the telecom space, like for instance, let's go ahead and say AT&T, which used to be a dividend favorite until they started cutting their dividends and acting silly, their trading multiple is an 18. Their dividend yield is just shy of 5%. Year to date, they're up by 29%, which is because of the news of Trump, which is helping them go in the green thanks to, the optimism surrounding Wall Street. It's the same thing, right? Telecom, their trading multiple is below the S&P 500's average of about 28. So to answer your question, I think it really depends on a few factors, right? It depends on the company's outlook, industry, and growth expectations. And when in doubt, it's best to compare a company that you're evaluating, especially in the oil and gas field, and to benchmark that company to its peers in the same industry to see if it's cheap or not. And that's why when it comes to oil and gas companies, the best method to find their intrinsic valuation is most likely the multiples valuation to see how the market derives a value based on their peers, a market derived price for the company that you're thinking of. For me, the only oil and gas fuel company that I'm looking at right now is Devon Energy Corp. As you can see on your screen right now, a 7 trading multiple. Dividend yield is just a hair above 5%. But even then, I'm not that crazy about this company. So hopefully that answers your question. In terms of the valuation models, yes, it is undervalued, but into the eyes of Wall Street and other investors, a 7 PE ratio is fair for this oil and gas company. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. See ya.